program actually. It's the Boost program, and you're the fortunate ones to be here, yeah, actually part of. This is going to be the first episode in a series of 4, moderated by Carlo van Weijer. The bigger topic is obviously mobility, and all of you startups have something in common with this bigger team. Each series we will zoom in a specific team, and today it's about partnership and strategic organization. My name is Rudy van Beurden, and I'm going to be the sidekick. You are able to interact with us simply by using the chat. Your questions will pop up here on our screens, and we will try to involve them within the conversation, obviously. This is all part of a way, way bigger program in Europe that you're all attending with, sponsored by the EIT, and this is the very kickoff, live streamed for the campus in Eindhoven from the University of Technology. Yet again, a very, very warm welcome, and I'm going to introduce the 2 guests here in the studio for you. And this is obviously my co-anchor, Carlo van Weijer, and he will be doing the conversations, the interviews with the startups. And our very first guest here, live attending, is Tom Selten, and you've got like a very big name tag. It's Business Development Lead and also in charge of strategic partnership with Lightyear. First and foremost, congratulations with your new funding recently. And yet again, for the viewers, if you would like to interact, please send in your questions so we can really tailor-make this very interview and the information and the answers for you guys and girls back home. But for now, the floor is all Carlos. Take it away and have a good one.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Good to be here. Good to see you all. Maybe a bit about my background. I work at the Technical University already for quite some years. And actually one of the things that I've been busy with the last 5 years, and maybe one of the main things, was working on this EIT from urban mobility. It's I kind of bit one of the founding fathers, so we go way back, and it's very good to be back in this ecosystem of strengthening mobility. And one of the things that we do is, of course, try to inspire all new startups. And yeah, we get quite some inspiration from all the startups that we also see growing here around in our ecosystem. Actually, one of my responsibilities was that I was responsible for all the student teams that happened here together with some other people on the Technical University, and I was kind of the chief diaper change officer of all the student teams. So, yeah, one of the kids that I have seen growing is here. So good to see you here. We regularly see each other, and I hope for the next 40 years again, because it's fantastic what you're all doing. So. Together, I have the honor to talk to you about organization and the strategic alliances, what we did already for a long time. And seeing you growing up from starting with these very strange ideas what all these student teams came up with, I think you had a berserk week last week. Maybe it's good to start with the actuality on that one. What happened last week?
Yeah, it was crazy. So Friday we announced our 48 million investment round.
There you go.
It was amazing, amazing news for us, of course. I was actually on holiday on Friday, but I didn't catch any any of my 3 hours because in the morning we went live with the news, and all day it was crazy and phone calls. And of course, you should be aware that if you announce an investment round, there also are going to be a lot of people are trying to get some luck out of you. So you need to be aware that you're not going to jump in all the requests you get. But I think it's great news because it's really a first milestone for our company to get into production, and started 8 years ago on this campus, developing a solar car where a few people believed in, including yourself and some others. Seeing it now being grown into in a mature company, able to land a significant investment round in the Netherlands is it's a huge step forward.
Yeah, it's not the first milestone, as you said. It's a lot of milestones happened already, of course. But yeah, that's the thing. But I tend to say always, and you might have heard me saying this already before, that these students, especially the student teams, have this unique talent to come up with the most crazy and I often say stupid ideas. But I always keep on repeating as well that in order to have a breakthrough, you need to start with a stupid idea. A lot of people think that's the other way around, that any stupid idea will be a breakthrough, which is not the case. But actually, we expected you to prove our wrong, because with our experience, we could easily say that putting solar cells on a car is not going to work. You can easily calculate that until you proved us wrong. And that's actually a part of this incredible thing that you do is by partnerships. We're going to talk about that in the second phase of the interview. But I was also asked to talk on this organization, because it's another thing that because you probably learned more from you than you learned from us, I guess, but especially on this organization. It's so different than with big corporates, also because of the size probably, but it's also you do a lot of things differently. Now, maybe to start with, the organization is to get the right people. You're now with 150 people, I guess?
Yeah, we just landed at 150. Yeah. And I just learned that it's a very special number.
Yeah. We had a short talk on this one. We'll get back to that one. It's the Dunbar number. You should study on this one as well. But we come back to that. But fast growing itself, I think a lot of companies are a little bit jealous that you are able to hire people, because you need people that are very wanted in the industry. So what's your secret? How do you reach all the talent?
I think so. When having a company with an ambitious idea as Lightyear, so becoming a car manufacturer and actually revolutionize the way we travel ourselves, with such a big ambition, you automatically attract people who do not buy in your company because they want to get rich or they want to earn a decent salary, or of course they do, but the intrinsic motivation of people applying at Lightyear it's insane. It's people. The first quarter of a interview is more about their ambition and why they want to join Lightyear and why they believe it's a good idea, and how they already thought about applying solar to electric cars, and because it really is like a quarter to half an hour only on this. And then after that, we introduce to each other, etc. Details. Yeah. It's crazy how many people apply because of their intrinsic motivation, and that's key in the complete company. Once that is not in place in our company, it will be a failure. Therefore, it's insanely important to have this intrinsic motivation in every employee in the company. As soon as we recognize that someone is there for other reasons, it's going to be a failure. So that's step one. You need to have you hire people with intrinsic motivation, and you can easily test that. There are a lot of tests out there where you can test intrinsic motivation,
like?
but also by actually asking them 3, 4 times, 5 times why. And if they can't answer that question,
the 5 times why, yeah.
If they can't answer the question, mostly the second time, third time why is bad shit, bullshit. So therefore, it's quite a good starter. But of course, I think 80% of the people applying at Lightyear has this intrinsic motivation, and I think that's the key, which we also learned in a student team, because in a student team you devote your time 2 years to a specific goal.
Yeah.
And you won't reach that goal if you're not intrinsically motivated to reach that goal, because you get so many setbacks. You need to overcome a lot of minor details or some major details, and then if you are not intrinsically motivated, you won't be able to reach that goal. So for us, that's number one, and that's also number one why also my advice to all the startups is really only hire people which you are completely confident that they are
But that
motivated.
combines with this goal that you are able to offer, because you do have a mean transformative purpose, or this big, hairy, audacious goal that everybody talks about, that takes care of this intrinsic motivation. So you have to have the goal, and then start searching if people have intrinsic motivation. And ask the 5 times why.
Definitely,
That's
always.
a good one. So why are you here? Why? And keep on asking, and the 3rd, 4th time,
then
it's either bullshit or they're really unmotivated.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so we learned already a bit there. Now, about this organization where you land in your company, these 150 people, you're also organized kind of top down. I hear Lex every now and then presenting the organization, and where normal organizations start with the CEO and then have a management team and then the people, etc. Your triangle, your pyramid is a little bit the other way around. It starts with people and it ends with Lex, actually. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I think Lex is incredibly accessible. So he's a person which highly values to be accessible for everyone, and he has a natural, I wouldn't say disrespect, but I think natural. Something against
slight anarchy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so he's the opposite of arrogance. Yes, I would say, and he is incredibly friendly to everyone in the company. I think that culture reflects on the complete company, because as soon as people get like the idea that someone is being hierarchical, then he immediately gets a response from multiple spots within the company, and that's because we are actually grown from the student team. Student teams are, by definition, I would say, are horizontal, because you're all students. You're all on the same level. Nobody has a career. Nobody has an immense fortune.
No
so
status.
It's and you get an immediate response from your peers if you act strange, in a sense, if you act arrogant. So you definitely learn to be sort of, it's almost altruistic, I would say, how we treat each other, and I think that's good, and we should keep that culture. And Lex, of course, from his background, contributes to that. But it's more than Lex only. It's really because our company has these roots in the student teams. And therefore, I would say student teams are the way forward for every university from now on.
Yeah, that's why we keep on investing. We have 51 by now already in different categories, etc. So it's
almost 150.
It kind of exploded, etc. I think the university of the future will be closer to what student teams do than what the standard curriculum is, probably, because that's.
I think that's a very interesting discussion. But probably not for this.
Not for this one. That's another session. Probably how you should organize a university instead of companies. But
definitely, I would jump into that.
Let's get back to company, because what you say is recognizable, and you can keep it flat, etc. Normal organization startups have this kind of culture, but you also hear them complaining as soon as they got better. That's what we pre-discussed shortly. Normally, this happens at 150 people. It's called the Dunbar number. There's a guy that invented that actually, or studied primates and what have you. But at 150, not so much primates, it's humans. At 150, there's something that you do not know everybody by head, etc., and it starts growing, and you have to kind of
Processes.
organize, etc. Do you already feel that the growing pains might be coming now? And
Yeah, we had already had some growing pains. We grew our company in 2019 actually quite fast. Then we had quite a drawback where we became smaller, and now we actually are rapidly growing again. And with growing, there are going to be more processes. Indeed, you don't know all the people, especially in this COVID situation. Super strange because you tend to have people in a company working together with you never physically met. So my team consists of 3 people I actually never met, so that's strange in person. But indeed, I think is going to be an interesting discussion the coming months in our company, how to organize growth. And I could foresee maybe that we are going to start some sub-tribes or so, specifically focused on specific technologies. I would know. That's some.
Yeah,
I can tell you probably more about it within a year from now. But yeah.
Okay, we'll have a next round then. But so I also recognize that people that come out of university prefer to work at you in some cases, especially the entrepreneurial people, etc. But you also managed to hire quite some executive experienced ones from even Tesla people joining you. What's their intrinsic motivations? It's the same with these startup people that still have nothing to lose, etc. No mortgage, no family, etc.
No, it's much more of a rational decision, I would say, sometimes. So sometimes it's like someone working at Tesla who wants to be more with the children at home, but wants to have the same environment, huge ambition, and really wants to work at a company with this huge ambition. So that's more of a rational decision. But on the other hand, most of the feedback we get from seniors is that actually they really want to sort of start their second career, like they mentioned.
Okay.
So really to learn work in a company which is operating in a completely different way, and are really open for this sort of experience. So
it's not a midlife crisis thing.
I wouldn't say
really a second career.
Yeah, I would say they are just after their midlife crisis.
Yeah, it's better to start a new job than a new family, etc.
That's also very good advice.
Yeah.
No, I think what you see there is that Lightyear is organized in this flat hierarchy, and I think
exactly.
a lot of this seniors also want to experience how that works.
And that's an essential thing. Yeah, they grew into this corporate, but actually nobody liked this culture.
Exactly.
And that's the thing. How are you going to stick to this thing? With all respect of corporate culture, that in some industries are very necessary or even prerequisite. But indeed, how do you stick to this startup mentality in a long time? I have some experience myself in fast-growing companies, etc. But that's the key for the future. But I'll be there to watch you on that one. Yeah. Maybe and also if you have vacancies, do you start with function descriptions, or do you look at somebody and then adapt the function descriptions? How do you?
We are starting with making function descriptions. However, most of the time someone applies for a role and you immediately recognize this is intrinsic motivation, and you really sense that this is someone who could add value to the company. Most of the times when the HR is not looking, then the functions are getting rid of the table, and we immediately start talking about what this person actually wants to add to the company. And I would say, I think 40, maybe 50% of the people hired at this moment actually, the first week, they have a different role as that they apply for.
I don't know if we should institutionalize this one, but it is actually also what I forgot the author. But it's this book, The Good to Great. So somebody put it in the chat who the author is there. But Good to Great, it exactly mentions that. Try people that fit, that you feel that are going to contribute, and then adapt the function description to that. And of course, everything should be happening, etc. You should make sure that everything that happens but don't distribute that in function descriptions. Try to allocate people to that.
It sometimes gives headache for the HR department because
that should be their goal as well. To have the people on the right place, and probably they know that as well. So okay, so that's good. So organization still growing. How many people you're gonna have probably in 5 years from now? You expect?
Yeah, we need to land at least, I would say 500, but this number is only people working at Lightyear.
Yeah.
Having said that, I think that if we, in 5 years, we are going to produce our high volume car, we have thousands of people working to create this solar car on the road, but not specifically working maybe at Lightyear, but working in companies supplying us or maybe helping us to manufacture the vehicle. So there's a huge ecosystem actually which we are actually building at the moment. So at this moment there are 150 people working at Lightyear, but I would say there's a multiple of 3 to 4 of companies involved in the development of the vehicle, involved in the development of technology, also involved of hiring, of raising funds. So there are a lot of companies actually in the ecosystem. And maybe there's a nice analogy which we also discussed, but you see that some companies really choose to build it full integration. So, for example, Tesla, complete integration. They want to build the batteries themselves. They want to build the complete vehicle themselves, do the assembly, do the sales, the delivery. We are much more looking at a more, I think, European model where we want to work together with companies in an ecosystem. That's also something we've learned, referring back to the student team. We've had more than 100 companies sponsoring our student team. So we are I learned that a lot of these companies actually could benefit from us, same as we can benefit from them. So if you organize this organization in the way we are doing at the moment, I think we can actually scale more rapidly than Tesla did.
Okay, so we now ended actually the second part of the interview, indeed, the strategic alliances as you do so. But actually, this externalities, by the way, in between people, if you have questions, the last 50 minutes we're going to pose your questions, so please have them coming up. Rudy is going to collect them, I hope.
And you had a question already. It's done by James C. Collins, Good to Great.
That was
the book.
Oh, sorry. You have that's actually an answer.
James
That's not a question. I had the question. This is the answer. James C. Collins. Okay. Go and read them because that's the essential thing for the next phase. Yeah. So please keep on coming with the questions. We'll come to them later on.
Definitely.
But actually, this is the essential thing on the strategic alliances, and indeed, it was kind of the cliche or the new management wisdom that don't do everything yourself. Somebody else that can do it better, let them do it. So that's actually also how you managed to build a car with only 150 people, which on itself is berserk. No. Now that was the opinion until Tesla came up, and actually Apple does kind of the same. They do everything themselves, everything. Even now make their own chips for their autonomous driving, etc., which used to be a tier 3 supplier, and then now they do that all themselves. There's probably not one right winning model, but you clearly chose the other way. That's
that's our strategic decision we've made in 2019 as well, to not produce or not assemble our own vehicle. So we want to outsource that. And we really want to focus on our core technologies, which are in necessity the solar panels integrated in the vehicle, which we also think is going to be applied massively across all other modalities like buses, but also other vehicles. It will be a huge market. And second, we build a vehicle platform which is built for efficiency, and that's the key of Lightyear. So really focus on efficiency in every detail of their development. We are very good at that, but we also want to have our supply chain focusing on the efficiency, because we are not going to develop it ourselves. So we really need to build this, I would say, automotive supply chain of efficiency to be able to deliver the customer a vehicle which is incredibly energy efficient. We clearly chose not to do it ourselves. Of course, huge respect for Tesla and other companies who are choosing the more vertical integration. But I think this company fits our culture, fits also the region we are in. And for now, it actually is working quite well.
But do you see something like a re-verticalization? Because we try to split it up, etc., with supply chains. That's how the entire automotive industry is built off. But it makes it harder to make the optimum system efficiency, for instance. That's the advantages, and you don't have to negotiate with all things. And the data, whose data is it for all these components? If it's all yours, that makes life a bit easier.
True.
Is this going to, because of all these things that I just mentioned and lots of other, do you foresee re-verticalization, or do you want to stick to this one and be the better model?
I think the digitization, which is actually happening right now in the complete supply chain, is helping us actually to get to help our suppliers build a better and more efficient product, because we are building a company which is actually quite open, so our suppliers can actually interact directly with our systems, and therefore we have much more insight in what they actually can do. And we are sort of also, we are not going to be an automotive OEM which is saying to a supplier, we have this price point and you need to build this product at this requirements. We are going to say to our suppliers, we want a product which is the most efficient product you can build. For now, that's the most important
you have
requirement.
A functional description and that's it.
That's it.
You let them solve it.
Price even doesn't care at this stage. That's why the car is quite expensive at this stage. I'm sorry, Carlo.
I'm a customer.
You actually are paying now for that. I wouldn't say that, but
I think prepaid it.
Yeah, but that's one of the reasons why we are able to have incredibly dedicated suppliers, because the suppliers also say, this is for us is completely new, because normally we get a request from an OEM saying that we need to build this price point and this requirement.
Does make you too dependent then on them? Or do you just, for instance, whose IP is it, for instance? Is it yours IP or is it the supplier?
Sometimes it's ours IP, but we have now some agreements with suppliers or even partners to whom we can deliver. To have an agreement in place that we also have joint IP when we co-develop something. So we have these agreements where we specifically determine the field where we want to collaborate, and we say, okay, if you invent it, then it's yours. It's my idea, it's mine. But if we co-create it together, it's both our IP, and we really keep track of this in a sort of a register, and we have monthly reviews with that with our partners. Of course, it's based on trust. That's if you don't feel this trust between the two parties, it doesn't work. So you really need to have this feeling of trust. You need to be, again, intrinsically aligned on the goal. So you want to both develop a product which is incredibly energy efficient to be actually able to drive on the sun directly. If you have this, it's the hiring an employee should be the same as hiring
a supplier.
Yeah, it's no different, because in a sense you are working towards the same goal. And why should I treat my supplier differently as I treat my employees? It doesn't make sense, because they're both equally important, I would say. If you see it like that, but of course there are a lot of suppliers out there which we refuse to work with, because they're more like squeezing us, and they are...
did you experience that already?
Yeah, definitely. And they want to be really eager to gain the IP, which we already are in. We are also interested in, for example, and we cannot find common ground to share it, for example.
But do you then point out beforehand which IP and which components that are definitely yours and you see as the focus area?
Yeah. So
you said this is the efficiency of the entire drivetrain, the solar cells implementation.
Yeah. And some parts, we don't really. I would say we care about, but it's not really our core. So that's something we could. We are okay with it if the IP is on their side. So we define fields. So we define which field do we want to have based on our core competences, and they define based on their core competence which they're interested in. And of course, there's also some room for joint IP. And based on this register, then we use, and based on the project management around this, we are able to do this quite well. And it's actually it's not a unique model. I know, for example, Street Scooter. Also use this. I used to watch their edX series on the vehicle development, which is a recommendation for all the startups out there to also watch. It's incredible.
edX,
it's an edX course from Street Scooter.
Okay, the edX course of Street Scooter. So that's another thing you learned.
It's a great one. Yeah, they really explain the complete journey of how they built the Street Scooter, and also how they like to treat their suppliers. And I think we as a company want to. Not 100% copy that, but we want to use the same values to work together with our suppliers, and not treat them as sort of companies which you could squeeze and get the most out of. But we really want to have them on board our mission, and our mission is to build the most energy efficient vehicle.
That's the modern co-creation that you're actually applying already.
Yeah,
I saw Rudy waving already. Do we have some questions coming in, or are we already at the last quarter?
No, not yet. We still have like half an hour left, so we're easy on the time.
by Samuel, actually a few questions. It has to do with strategic alliances and organization. One is actually on the members of your team, and the other one is with other suppliers. And you actually mentioned already you shouldn't treat them any different. But the first question was, how did you recruit outside of your core University of Technology network? I think you had way too many people willing to work for you.
We have a tremendous inflow of good people. However, some vacancies are really hard. Electrical engineers, for example, are quite hard to get. Still, they are also acting really hard to get. So I really like that mentality. But it's sometimes frustrating. But yeah, for us, it's of course, it's maybe more easy than a company which is building a really specific product within a system. For us, we build a complete vehicle. We have this insane ambition of driving a Lightyear of clean kilometers in 2035. So it's really, sustainability is really easy sort of to communicate for us. I can imagine if you have a company building a chip which lets perform a solar panel 2% better, still it's tremendous, but it's much harder to communicate on that. So, but then you should really maybe sometimes be more ambitious than you would feel comfortable with. Also, when you're developing such a subsystem or a tiny product, I think that really helps a lot of companies to be sort of overly ambitious in that. Of course, you should be realistic in your operations, but in your expressions, you can be. Yeah. You should be more ambitious, I think, than a lot of companies are actually doing it at the moment.
Yeah. And actually, there was quite a track record already, obviously, winning the Solar Challenge and everything.
That incredibly helped. So that's also something which Carlo and Tom Bax, another advisor, also told us, and also others. Maart Steinboeg was really important. If you win the first time, the World Solar Challenge, it shows that you have a really capable team, and the technology is also okay. If you win the second time, it actually shows that not only the team is okay, but the technology really makes sense. And after the second time, after 2015, we decided to start the company, because that really was the moment when we really were confident that the physics of our product actually were right. So it's not about the team, it's not about the circumstances. It really is about it works. Of course, there's a really long way of development, but if the core of the physics are okay, then actually there is a way forward. So that's the core of our company, right? So
yeah, true. Actually, this big, hairy, audacious goal, the mean transformative purpose that you have, is both on the HR and also to have your own goal. Is maybe the most. It's the starting point.
Starting point, definitely.
Yeah, that one. Which you actually we now see the picture here of the launch in.
Yeah, there was goosebumps all over the place.
1.5 years ago, I guess, or almost 2 years ago, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was another milestone, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So what we see here is actually the moment the car gets unveiled, and it's in a place in the Netherlands where we have this huge hangar where actually there is a sort of a curtain which could be opened, and you see the curtain actually opened, and the sun came in, and it was at 6 o'clock, I guess, in the morning.
Yeah, I know.
You were there.
I had to be there 3:30 already because I had a small role as well. Yeah, my gosh. And I thought, but this is about thinking differently. I said, why do you do this? She said, yeah, but our potential customers, they're relatively richer people, and they have such filled agendas, so you can't get a spot in it. But everybody has room in their agenda at 6 in the morning. So why won't we do it at 6 in the morning? I said, but who will come 6 in the morning? I said, yeah, a lot of people, because we have 2 shifts. It was already sold out twice, etc.
Yeah, there was a traffic jam indeed at 5 o'clock.
There was a traffic jam at 5 o'clock. Message, yeah. But that's about thinking differently a little bit. And it was the longest day, so the earliest sun rays of it was in June. Yeah. And it was exactly rising. We were a little bit lucky. You were a little bit lucky with the weather as well. So
insanely lucky.
Yeah, fantastic. Sometimes, so that's just a little extra on thinking differently, etc. But very well done. Yeah. Did you have another question on this one?
A little bit different. I don't know if there's a whole new marketing proposition or business proposition. Samuel is also asking, what was the challenge of just supplying a solar roof, for example, to Tesla, instead of building the whole car?
Yeah, that's the other thing. So you can also become a partner, a supplier to other people in this model, is it?
Yeah, definitely. So that's we now have 3 Teslas driving around with our technology. We have no specific partnership with Tesla in place at the moment. Tesla isn't renowned for being the most easiest to work with, as they're all
and they're gonna virtually integrate you. If,
therefore, but it's more for us. It's more a proof of concept to show that our technology actually works also on a vehicle which is not optimized for efficiency.
Yeah.
Actually, the customers now using our solar roof are quite happy because their battery drain is less. We are learning a lot from that project as well. But my role in the company really is also to look at how can we scale Lightyear not only with the vehicle but also with our technology. And I think in this concept of working together in this ecosystem, I think maybe there's more value in the technology we develop than in being able to build a vehicle. You know, it's others are very good at assembling vehicles. We are not, but we want to be very good in designing a system which is able to eventually drive completely on the sun. If the solar cells get better, if the car gets lighter, if the battery cells get more energy dense and cost friendly.
Yep.
All these industry trends are actually helping us a lot to reach that goal. And effectively, it's about the system design. It's about technology that we develop. But then, who actually is going to be the assembly of the car? It doesn't really matter. Of course, it should be a partner which is incredibly devoted to the same goal as we have.
That's the starting point.
That's the starting point.
Yeah.
But essentially, it's not us definitely who want to be the sole OEM in the world.
No.
It's really about enabling actually everyone to join our train and be able to drive on the sun, because we really believe that is the most most friendly solution.
But you don't want to end up in a situation that we said, "Oh, thanks for the idea and thanks for motivating us," and
true.
and we go steal your idea.
True.
So you did your thing in trying to be ahead of it. Speed is one thing, but IP as well.
IP is incredibly important.
What's your position and what area? What can you disclose on that?
So we last couple of 2 years, me and my team, we worked really hard to get a company on board in our ecosystem who is actually managing our IP portfolio and who is also actually managing ASML's IP portfolios. We learn a lot from how they did it. Yeah, EPNC, Exeter, Pollack, and Charleroi. It's a good, very renowned company. They actually have now on their website, we are an exclusive Lightyear partner on their main website. So they're very... That's again, it's really about aligning on goals, because they also are the IP officer of ASML, which is a huge company, and we are just a tiny company, but we are on their homepage.
So you keep them fresh amongst the corporates.
No, that's exactly what they are saying.
Yeah,
that's what they mentioned, and they are helping us tremendously with managing our complete portfolio, because managing IP is for us incredibly important.
Yeah. I heard that from another company as well that worked with you, that it's kind of a fitness exercise for them in order to make sure that
it isn't easy.
They keep on moving.
It isn't easy.
No, it isn't easy, but it's they learn a lot as well.
Yeah. It's for them also a stretch sometimes.
So coming back to this essential thing that we discussed, this strategic alliance, your strategic decision to work with externalities and try to cooperate instead of verticalization, which I, by the way, agree with, because verticalization is very difficult. You need a berserk amount of money.
Insane.
A berserk amount of money and a berserk amount of luck as well, because it's just simply money, a lot of talent and drive doesn't get you there. Look at what happened with Dyson. They had a lot of money and a lot of talent as well, and they didn't make it for some reason. So that's the dangerous way. This is the possible way for you as a company.
I think you mentioned it's not the way you're wrong. It's not that verticalization is wrong. Totally not.
No, that's true. That's apparently so, because it's impressive what Tesla's doing, of course, and we wouldn't be in the discussion with all the electricization if they weren't there. So that's clearly so. But what is if it doesn't work out? Did you already experience that you had this cooperation with a partner and then it was a little bit too optimistic and they needed to get out? Are you not incredibly dependent then? Can this also not be endangering the entire product?
Of course, you need to, in a lot of ways, you need to dual source. So you need to have backup.
You do that, dual sources, and the essential parts, okay.
Essential parts, we, of course, it's not everything is currently dual source, but we are building on that definitely. If the relationship is really good between the two companies and there is a lot of trust and there is a lot of development going on and there is potentially no reason to dual source at that stage. But there are a lot of products on which we are currently setting up this strategy. Yeah, because you need to, of course, if the trust is really high and the relationship is good, then still a company could fail.
Yeah, that's true. It makes you very dependent. So you have to identify which ones are you want to have dual source, because co-creation in a dual source is a little bit different. Huh? It's mostly two competing companies, and you sell your soul to one, and the other one doesn't want, etc.
True, and therefore we have no really long. So we don't we always evaluate our partnership every year. So every partnership agreement which we have in place is being evaluated constantly, and every month we sit together. Every year we evaluate if we want to continue or not. So we have all these potential exits in place if we want to move forward. But I think indeed, so there are core technologies on which we have co-creation partners, which we do not dual source, because we are really confident that these companies are stable and that the relationship is good. There are a lot of parts in the car. As a car exists more than 10,000 components, so you should really dual source some of these components, where it's not a huge added value to the efficiency.
Okay. And you're lucky you don't have a gasoline car, because then you have a little bit more components. Do you have really 10,000 components?
No, it's less. I
think a gasoline car might have 10,000 components, but yours...
I think it's 90% less for us. So I think we would arrive at 1,000 or so.
1,000 components, okay. Of which not all are essential.
And then we have also it's the bolt and nuts, right? Also included. Yeah.
The bolts as well, from the Netscrew. Okay. From also a Helmond company Netscrew. Yeah, here we go. That's okay. Now, cool. Let's look at the questions.
Definitely some more questions. So one you just elaborated on. What could be the risk? So maybe if I am able to ask another question, did it sometimes go wrong? And how did you evaluate that? And did you seek for a new partner, or did you make new rules with them?
Of course, it goes wrong. It goes wrong. There's a lot of miscommunication. That's maybe also. An added value of having a vertical integrated company. Although I think internally there's also a lot of miscommunication, but you should really align constantly on with your partners, and therefore we have quite a huge procurement, or actually a sort of a partnership department, I would say, within Lightyear. We've more than 15 people managing the partnerships, and not only on contract but also on relation. So we really want to
15 people you work on partnerships on Lightyear side?
Yeah,
that's 10% of your people are working with these.
And partnership perspective, yeah.
Oh, here we go. So that's also if a startup company wants to follow this model, which they probably want.
If you build a car which exists of more than 30 systems.
And 10% of your people are working with the strategic alliances, etc.
Yeah, I would say that. Yeah. If you pursue this model, you should definitely take that into account.
Okay, that's another lesson.
Yeah, that's a good lesson. Yeah, definitely. And it's very needed, because there is a lot of miscommunication. One miscommunication is so easily made, it's insane.
And these are people with a technical background, probably, because
most of the times.
The first one is a little bit on business, and the second discussion is always on technology.
Definitely, and most of the times also engineers are involved. Not all engineers are renowned of their communication skills. So
exactly, that's recognizable as well.
You should definitely have people in place who are helping there, and also learning, right? It's also a learning opportunity.
And they're often forgiven, because on the other hand, often there's also less easy communicating technical people. Huh?
Definitely, and then you have also cultural aspects, which is for me also a great learning to have. Because we as Dutch, and especially me, I'm quite direct. So I think if you have someone from Belgium, for example, it's much less direct. So you should be really aware of these cultural differences. And of course, you get courses in the university about that. But I can assure you, it's way better to experience that in a student team or in a startup, because then you really learn it instead of the theory. Of course, the theory is needed, but you really learn how to deal with that when doing it wrong. And it's not a problem, right? But you should be aware of that's wrong, and if you're aware of that's wrong, then you can fix it.
Yeah,
next time.
And if the other side also is aware that these people are a little bit too blunt, but as soon as you have to laugh, as long as you have the same goal, it might help that in the end it will come right. Okay.
And transparency is if they feel that we are not transparent, and so we really value transparency. So it's one of our core values.
What do you mean with transparency? You cannot all tell all your secrets, or
No, but be transparent on your intentions. So really,
yeah.
for example, if we work together with a company supplying us, let's say, glass for the solar panels, then I'm transparent in this stage that we might also go build products in the future which does not contain glass.
Yeah.
I'm saying that to them, and they really respect that, because then they better understand what we want to do, and also where our intentions are.
Understandable.
Of course, it's you shouldn't be transparent about everything.
Yeah, but the glass for solar panels should be transparent, otherwise.
Otherwise,
that's one
but
thing.
indeed,
For sure.
it's this very difficult effect between bluntness and transparency,
Exactly.
which is communicating vessels, of course. So that's the game. Hop in another question, Rudy.
Well, definitely. We have another 15 minutes left, so for the viewers who are within the live stream, they are also able to unmute themselves, and you are able to see them on the screen if they dare, actually. In the meantime, there are some questions, so we have 15 minutes left, so please, if you want to put yourself on the map, this is your chance. Anastasia is asking, what could be a risk of forming such an alliance? And we spoke about this before. But also, how can such partnerships work financially? And I thought that was a little bit too broad. So she's specifying, like, our products are a direct incentive, or how are profits shared? Does someone pay someone in working together? So and maybe it has something to do, Tom, because you were heading the team. And it didn't really matter whenever you lost something or when you won something financially. Well, maybe on the map on the board of the university, but now you stepped into real life about 2-3 years ago, and you can't make too many mistakes.
No, we have to clarify a lot. So
well, there you go.
So on the first, indeed, I was the team manager of the student team. It doesn't mean I was heading the student team, because I was actually more of the slave of the engineers than I was heading them. Second,
that's nicely put.
This is also how the organization is. It's the triangle.
It's upside down,
and all the shit comes down. You know, so that's why
he's so lucky he's not the CEO.
We had a lot of shit.
Now on this, we have the financial model, we have the cooperation and all the dangers. We had some, but maybe there's some more. Yeah.
So indeed, on the financials, it's so also in the student team, it of course was we should how do you call that? Put your trousers up in the Netherlands.
Keeping your pants up.
Keeping your pants up. I don't know. Keep your feet wet, dry. But it's really about. So if within a partnership, of course, if we discuss on IP, and we have this register which I thought about, and you have to find the fields, and we have now situations where we use IP of a partnership in our product. Yeah. Then we have agreed upon a royalty which is being paid to that company who owns that IP every time we sell a product, or if we, for example, sublicense it, then the royalty is paid. So there are a lot of options actually you could select which fits the situation best, and there are a lot of lawyers willing to help and also willing to be paid.
But there's a lot on the other side as well, huh? Yeah.
Indeed, yeah. So there is a lot indeed. We make use of great lawyers actually from other companies or from our suppliers who help also us, because we have a mutual goal, which we don't need to pay them because it's our partner. That's really nice. But of course, the biggest difference between the student team and Lightyear at the moment is that now we have real customers expecting a product which is working all the time, even when at night, even when it snows, even when it rains, even when it's. So the huge difference is that with a student team, we were just racing Australia, trying to win a challenge. And now actually we need to build a product which works all the time. That's a big difference. Second is that now we really need to show that we are capable of making money in the future, and that we have a business model. And that's also the second one. It's not really about the financials. It's much more about having a business model in place which works and which is validated and which we've spoken a lot about, but we also a lot of advisors helping us to get the right model in place. Because in the future, I believe, we are not going to own our cars anymore, and we are going to share it. So there are going to be business models for Lightyear also, where maybe the car remains Lightyear remains the owner of the car all the time, and people having a subscription on a vehicle, for example, which is good for us, because then the incentive for us is to build a vehicle which lasts for a very long time, because we want to have the vehicle operational as longest, and also to be able to upgrade that vehicle, to remove the battery and put a better battery in.
But wait on this one, because normally you say when you drive an average 50 kilometers or 35 kilometers, what the Dutch person does, then it's enough for the entire year, although we have a little bit berserk winter, summer, which is we live very far from the equator. But a normal country has, you have enough with 35 kilometers per day.
Yeah.
But then if you start sharing it, that suddenly doesn't fly.
But then you want to have actually a car with a huge range, and then
you just have the enormous efficient car.
So I think indeed that's a really good one. There are, I think, 2 models for Lightyear, which we are at the moment actually are thinking about. So one model is that you have a car which never needs to charge again, and that's specifically made for people who want to own the vehicle and only drive 40, 50 kilometers per day, and then actually they never have to charge again. The second is that you have people, or even a shared car, which is being used a lot of time. Then the solar doesn't really add a lot of value, but then it's really about range, and then you want to have a big battery, then you want to have a...
Exactly.
So there's...
Oh yeah, that's a different vehicle.
Yeah, there's actually... maybe same platform indeed, different vehicle.
Yeah.
And then have 2 models in place where you can target different audiences. I think, for example, for the second one, we are in talks with several ride-hail companies to build the best taxi out there, and also to have a taxi. Of course, it should be autonomous, but that's not the focus of Lightyear. But if you look at what's really important when having an autonomous vehicle, that you don't want to have downtime. Because downtime means the car cannot operate, and downtime is when the car is charging. If you build a vehicle with a huge range and actually can be operated the whole day, charges overnight on a low power plug, which doesn't cost a lot of infrastructure, then you have the best ride-hail vehicle out there, or the best autonomous taxi out there.
Because charging is a problem with ride-hailing,
Yeah, definitely a problem. So therefore, I think we actually are able to build the best autonomous taxi, and not Tesla, because they are heavy, quite heavy, not energy efficient, and this acceleration makes no sense if you build an autonomous vehicle.
No, that's true. That is
because
it should be acceptable. Yeah.
Maybe we can do a trial already, that we share your car, Carlo, in the upcoming months or years.
I'm not going to share my Lightyear.
He's not really into it, but you have another one I heard recently.
Okay.
There's Samuel sitting ready.
Hi.
Maybe you can unmute yourself so we can hear you actually.
We have somebody with the guts to show themselves. Hi,
Excellent.
Samuel. Welcome.
Yeah, hi. Super interesting, and thank you so much for already all of the great questions. I think one of the interesting things that Lightyear has, you decided to make a whole car, so you're quite also vertically integrated. How do you go about deciding what you want to keep in scope for yourself versus what you?
Yeah, good question.
Look for partnerships or so I find that always very tricky. It's always easier to say, okay, they're not doing this nicely enough. Let me do that as well. Let me do that as well. Let me do that as well. How do you kind of find that balance and make that decision?
Yeah, I think so. We have a little bit of background in the company. So we started with with building a sort of a digital twin, as we call it, but we actually call it the vehicle performance model, and it's a model which actually maps all the interactions of the systems, and therefore we are able to really understand the dynamics which help us to reach the efficiency. And we actually select the components which add the most to this efficiency to build ourselves. Because what we see in the market is that, for example, on the in-wheel motors, which of course add tremendously to the energy consumption, you see that a lot of current in-wheel motor designs are not as efficient as we are, and are not made for personal vehicles. So there is actually no supplier out there who could easily build that, and therefore we do it ourselves. For example, on the solar, of course, also adds to the not to the efficiency, but to to be able to drive on the sun. Yeah. And there are no suppliers out there who can deliver us the panel which is automotive tested, which is durable, which is energy efficient, and actually cost friendly. Then also on the inverters, we have the same, which massively helps. Then on the tires, which also super important, we partner up with a company which is going to be announced very soon. We have developed a really interesting product with them together.
Because it's a very efficient tire?
Yeah,
or
it really helps to reduce the rolling resistance. Of course, that's only really applicable for driving on lower speeds. On the aerodynamics, we did a lot of ourselves, because you see that aerodynamics really on high speeds, of course, goes quadratic with the speed. So you see that aerodynamics is really important. We did ourselves based on this sort of digital twin on what we want to develop ourselves. And then for all the parts which do not really add. So for example, the battery, of course, it helps to have a battery which is energy dense, but there are sort of we dare follow the market. We are not going to invent a new battery. We really follow the market on the state of the art energy density. So really, we work together with a company, but we actually outsource the battery development for a lot. So only the interaction of the battery, the battery management system with our systems, that's something we develop ourselves, because it's really a lot of interaction with the system, and safety crucial. So you really want to have that in-house. But still, for a lot of components, based on this digital twin, we can just say, okay, we want to source it, because there's also a really good alternative already available in the market. There's no alternative available, then we either find a supplier who's willing to jump our train and also believes in the goal and really wants to help, or we are developing it ourselves. But I think because of Tesla, a lot of suppliers actually now are willing to also work with us.
How's that?
Yeah, because they see that Tesla made the transition to electric vehicles happen. And because this transition is now really in place, and I also briefly talked to Rudy about that, without Tesla, Lightyear wouldn't be here. Without the opening of the market, Lightyear would not be able to build this vehicle, because now actually the factories who are used to produce BMWs, VDL, actually are now, they need to shift, because the BMW is not going to make their minis anymore in Born, and actually is going to switch to electric. Every existing relationship is now under pressure, I would say.
Yeah, it turned around a little bit. Yeah,
it's like we are there at the right place at the right time, and that's I think, it's luck, but it's also why we started the company, because this is actually the best time to be around in the electric vehicle space, because there are so many new opportunities out there, new relationships to be built. We are talking to. I'm really eager to tell this, but I cannot, because I'm under a disclosure agreement.
Okay, but then we'll keep an eye on it.
There's going to be a really
nice cliffhanger. Yeah. Keep it like such.
I will. I need to stop talking there.
By the way, Elon Musk, by the way, he was in Amsterdam, and I went there with Lex, and he promised Lex that he would take a drive.
Definitely
so it's still open, so he might listen now, but he still promised to take a ride in it.
That would be awesome.
Huh?
That would be awesome.
He knows about Lightyear. He knows about the solar team, and he tweeted about it already a couple of years ago. So we'll stick to that. We'll keep him to his promise.
Maybe for the people listening in right now in the live call, we only have a few minutes left. Maybe if there's one final question, please put it in.
Drop
chat.
it in.
Yeah.
And otherwise, you start waving if there's a last question.
Yeah,
and,
definitely.
And otherwise, we can try to sum it up as well, because I learned some things as well. You're growing. It's even more important in order to have this model of having externalities winning instead of doing all yourself, which is not possible. That's something that startups should have. So the focus on working with your suppliers and to pick, as also the question came in, what are the essential ones among them? And put extra emphasis on that one, because if it's going wrong in that direction, it makes you very dependent. Is that also something?
Yeah.
So and if this model gives you the opportunity to grow for another couple of years, and you have this model, and you're going to outsource the production probably, or at least cooperate in a cooperation. Just think about 20 years ahead. So there's nothing in this car that is, by definition, if you make millions out of it, would be very expensive. Am I right?
True.
Isn't it then in due course there's no other way of having a solar cell alike car? And especially we think with our infrastructure here, but a lot of countries in the world who don't have charging infrastructure whatsoever yet. Isn't this going to be the benchmark car for less than 10,000 euro in due course?
I think the dream started with Lex being raised in Africa, and one of our co-founders, Gurijn, being also raised in South Africa, they really know the need for having a transition there and having a clean transition. And I think that's the end game. So build a vehicle which is intrinsically sustainable, which actually helps a lot of people mobility. What we learned from you, Carlo, is that mobility is freedom and everyone should have a right to be mobile. And that's what we 100% believe in at Lightyear, and that's our end game. So I'm happy if we go on holiday in 20 years, Carlo, and do a safari, and we see all those people driving in Lightyears.
Okay, I'll remind you to that in 20 years. Let's have a holiday.
Then the goal is there. Yeah, that's the end game. Yeah.
That's a nice one. So it started in Africa, the dream, and they're now going to go back to Africa again. Yeah. That's the thing. Yeah. Because they might. These are countries that can leapfrog, and they don't have the entire installation, etc. They leapfrogged on the landlines and have skipped and have mobile phones immediately. So why not leapfrog and forget about the gasoline engines and immediately jump to the sustainable one?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, let's stick that. That's something that we're going to discuss in 10 years from now, probably. Thanks all for being here and the input, and also like to thank the main sponsor. It's also the Kick Mobility. And so to check, they do a lot. This is something that they do just to try to inspire people and who are considering starting a startup. They do a lot more on how to improve our cities and improve mobility. So check their site. It's another love baby of mine, the Kick Mobility. So lots of the EIT mobility, lots of things happening there. We're going to be back. You're probably going to tell what's next, but hopefully to see you again. And thanks for the attention.
Definitely. Many thanks to the two of you. Obviously, Tom Selten, our very first guest. And now, we will be back next month, April 13th. For the people who are participating in the Boost program. There you are, I guess. Excellent. I did see some extra questions in the live stream as well. Why is no other company working on a solar roofed car? Well, maybe there are some.
There are some, yeah. Yep.
Some are there. Tom is nodding heavily. You can Google them, but there are also some nice documentaries on the traditional car manufacturing world. And it goes a little bit slower than it goes in Helmond with Lightyear, because they travel with the speed of light, obviously. It was a pleasure hosting this. Carlo and me will be back in the upcoming 3 months, actually. Every month we will host a new episode within the topic of mobility. Such a pleasure for you to be attending, and very nice for you standing in the questions whenever you did. Hopefully this was worthwhile, and we would love to see you back next month, April 13th, same time. See you then.